here at the conference with the Honey Badgers, and we're going to talk to them about why they're here at the conference and why they make such a difference. First of all, can one of you tell me, maybe you, Allison, what is a honey badger and why did you all give yourself this name?
Well, actually, it was, I believe it was Dr. Tara Pommier who originally thought of the idea of calling women who are advocates for men's rights honey badgers. And
Because they're different?
well, no, because it's like, a honey badger is ugly and tough and tenacious, and that's exactly what I want to be when I grow up,
Ugly, tough, and tenacious. Well, you're hardly tough and tenacious. Yes, I won't go with the other.
Well, we all end up there anyway, so I don't just get a bit of a head start.
So what brought you all to the conference today? And one thing I want to say is I was really amazed that you all apparently raised over like $5,000 on one of the sites to funding source, and I thought that was pretty amazing. Now, why did you do that?
Oh, well, we did that because originally the conference was coming under attack by some pretty violent rhetoric. Like they moved from the original the location because the hotel was receiving death threats, according to the hotel.
Who from?
Well, I don't really want to speculate because I
But
don't
I mean,
know.
in general, what kind of groups were these?
Well, likely it would be groups that are anti-men's rights activists, probably feminists, and for whatever reason, there's some sort of coalition between feminists and like socialist union workers. I'm not sure why they think that we're against some of the things that they're for, like workers' rights and men's workplace safety and stuff like that. But so it's just sort of like I think it's a misunderstanding of what we're for.
Well, what are you for? Why are you here for men's rights?
Well, we're really here to support men and boys.
It's to support the voice of men, the what men need to feel safe, their men's human rights. There seems to be some misunderstanding as to what that actually is. But it all comes down to we live in a society where the safety and human rights of men are completely dismissed.
Do you think people don't understand some of the dangerous jobs and things that men do?
I don't think it's been focused on. We live in a society where it's just taken for granted. So it's not something that people have, that the majority of our society has taken the time to think on, the safety of men.
And what do you hope to accomplish? What about the safety of men is it that you hope will change?
Well, there's a lot of men's human rights issues. There's circumcision, which is a completely, human rights issue. You should not be allowed to cut anybody. And also fairness in the court systems for men, as well as custody battles and etc., as well as domestic violence shelters. Men do not have a place to go. If they're being abused by their wives, nobody really takes the time to listen or even takes it seriously. So if they need a place to go, they don't have that support. And a lot of men stay in these abusive relationships, fearing that they could lose, their children in a custody battle. And a lot of the men turn to suicide.
So, Jessica, how do you think you're different? Like, why do you think there are not more women here? There are a lot of women, but a lot of women, it seems like they don't focus. They focus only on women's issues, women's rights, and what women need, and our society does as a whole. Why are you here? I mean, do you think that, why do you think it is that you're different from these other women that don't focus on these issues?
I wouldn't say it's so much about just being different, or it's just recognizing different things. And I think most people have in their lives men and boys that they want to keep safe, that they love, they want to, I don't want to say protect like you want to coddle them, but you want them to be safe from some of the really serious stuff out there. I have a husband that I love, I have a son that I worry about his future, and so I don't want him to face some of the risks that are out there right now, and I want him to have more opportunities than he may have in the current atmosphere.
People think that everything has always been focused, everything has always been about men, even in the past. Do you think that's the case, or do you think that that's sort of just something that's people have thought for so long it's just become part of the, yes?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that, the fact that men have built this and are a big part of building this society and do a lot of the jobs and they're very visible doesn't mean that society is about them. It doesn't at all. We look at men when they're doing something for society, doing something for women, doing something for children. But as soon as they're not capable of fulfilling that role, we stop looking at them. We don't see that. So we see all of the powerful men and the men who are doing and helping, but once they're homeless, once they're suicidal, once they're having problems with drug and alcoholism, and once they're having like issues with workplace or disabled, and once they're out of their families and divorces, we stop seeing them.
They sort of disappear.
They disappear. And it's really the way I think our culture is arranged. Is that you
Do you think this conference is focused mainly on middle class and lower class men, or is it focused on all men?
I think it's more about all men. I think a lot of reason why a lot of women aren't here is because there are a lot of misconceptions about what we do, and a lot of the media is saying that we are a hate group, that we're anti-women, and I really don't think that's the case at all. It's couldn't be farther from the truth. So
Yeah, we're definitely not anti-women. The whole basis is, showing women to be responsible for how they show up in society and how they coexist with men, and how to do that in a healthy way and support men as well.
And sort of going back to the feminist movement, I was always, when I was growing up, an equity feminist, feeling like, oh, I thought men and women were supposed to be equal, but now it just seems like, to me, it seems like women want special privileges and men have responsibilities, and that's the problem. And what do you hope, what do you think will happen because of a conference like this? Do you think there'll be any changes?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, I will not think, but what is so vital of the men's human rights movement, it's the part that we haven't heard. We haven't heard the voice of men. We haven't heard what they need, and they're coming forward and say, this is what we really need. I mean, they have in the past as well, but now people are starting to listen. Yeah, they're finally starting to listen. So the important part of this is, if we're going to move forward together, everybody needs to be heard, and that includes men. So what's great about the conference like this is that people start to talk. How do we put support systems in place for men? What do men really need? How can we support men? And then as we do that, we move forward together, men and women, and that's the whole point, is creating healthy community.
Do you think men have been afraid to speak up? Has that been your experience?
Absolutely. I find it ironic, a bit of a double standard, that a lot of people are saying, well, we want men to speak up. We don't want them to be stuck under the strict gender role of tough and not sharing their feelings. And then when they try and share their feelings, they get demonized and they're told to, just sit down, shut up. We don't want to hear those things. They get mocked. So I think it's really important to start listening. Absolutely.
And do you think other men sometimes hinder men from talking?
Yeah, well, I would agree that it's a societal thing. It's not just women and it's not just men. It's attitudes that we have towards, men, and I would also say towards women, because there's always that, we're so closely tied. You do something to men, you do it to women, and if you do something to women, you do it to men. And there isn't that, I don't think there's that recognition in feminism that we are that connected, and that you really can't have an intervention, that you can't really fill one side of a bucket. It's just, you have to look at both and do it holistically as opposed to just one gender.
So the conference is about trying to help men and women come together and understand how they can all...
It's opening a dialogue,
Yeah.
really. It's it's starting the conversation, and I think this is a good way to start it.
Yeah. Well,
Saying
to
that
have
we're-
it,
Yeah,
just
to
talk.
have the
Just
Yeah.
remind
Yeah.
everybody that we're all in this together. It's not
Right.
men versus women or anything
No.
like that. It's people. We're all people.
How do you think the media will take this type of a conference? Do you think they'll put a positive or a negative spin on it? That doesn't look good. What?
Already run with it and taken a very negative spin.
And what's the negative spin?
Well, they created, as soon as what happened with Elliot Rodger, someone came up with Elliot Rodger was an MRA, which was completely inaccurate. He was an anti-PUA, which is not even connected to PUAs, and both of them are not.
PUAs being for our audience. I know what it is.
Pickup artists. There's the anti-pickup artist and the pickup artist group, and those two are not connected, and those two are not connected to MRAs. So there's a completely separate thing. So they started to say, oh, and then it went into, well, this is how all men are. They all feel entitled to women's bodies, and they all, they're all just one step away from this happening, and because, patriarchy, and it's like, no, that's not the case. This was a severely criminally mentally ill person who, that's not. You can't have an entire gender responsible for. Yeah, he had a lot of rage. But and then the discussion of how men seem entitled to women's bodies is out of control. It's not even the truth. When the reality is, in society, society has treated as if they have ownership of men's bodies. You can cut men's bodies whenever you feel. You can send them to war and die whenever you feel. They're supposed to support society in dangerous jobs that we still keep alive without the, the discussion of these jobs should not exist anymore. They're a high death risk. But we don't, because of, well, it's what men will do anyway. Just let men do these jobs, and who cares? So, to say that men feel that they can have a woman's body whenever they want is actually completely inaccurate, because society feels that they have ownership to men and men's bodies.
Or the selective service. It's like that's throughout all of history. There's been an expectation that men put their, essentially become a slave of the state when the state decides that, it's time for war.
Yeah. There are many states where, if you don't register for the draft, they just won't allow you to vote at all.
Well, you can also go to jail
Yeah.
and get high
Yeah.
fines, and you can't get student loans just for registering. That's not even going to the draft. As soon as a man turns 18, he has to register, or he'll go to jail and can't get student loans. So it's outrageous.
In closing this, what do you all hope people will come away from this conference knowing more about or understanding?
I would hope that we can just sort of get rid of this idea that it has to be a situation where you only support one versus the other. Like, it's not really an us versus them, because men and women have, throughout history and throughout all cultures, we have the closest relationship of any two groups to each other. Then, the other groups are separated by ethnicity, race, and men and women make families together. We fall in love with each other. Well, men and men and men, women and women. But, it's like, this is a situation where we're very intimately entwined. And a proper intervention has to respect that. That you can't really do anything to men that you don't also do to women, or do anything to women that you don't also do to men. So there really is no us versus them here. It's all, we have these issues, men have issues, they have vulnerabilities, they have concerns. There's this particular way of looking at men that's not healthy, and I don't think it's healthy for women either. And let's address that, and do it in a positive way that benefits everyone. Because I think that this could actually also benefit women, to get away from that victim identity.
So you also agree that this would be a benefit?
Yeah, I do. But I'm also hoping that people come away from this understanding that we're really not a hate group, or we're people, we're regular people, we're friendly, we're happy, we just want to help other people, and that's really what this is about. But people sort of, put their own spin on it and think a whole bunch of men getting together, it's become kind of yeah, I guess almost like villains, or just meeting together, just plotting like the demise of society, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I hope that people come out of this with facts, and they start to think for themselves and start thinking, okay, wow, these are things that I didn't really think of before, or, hopefully it'll raise their empathy towards what men are experiencing, and realize that it's not just happening to women, it's happening to men too. There's a lot of people suffering who need support, and how can we do that together?
We'll get out of this.
Yeah, just an ear to listen, just to be able to hear these things. And like I said before, just acknowledging that it's not, men versus women. We're all in this together. And, things happen, there's hardly any true gendered issues. Things happen to people, and we just need to acknowledge that we're all in it together.
Well, I think that's a good note to end on. I'm Helen Smith, and this is PJTV. Thanks for listening.